Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge with myself, Max, and my co host, Alex. And today we have a very exciting episode for you all. It is time for playoff predictions for the 2023 2024 NBA season. And I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to get straight into it, starting with the Eastern Conference. I'll let Alex start off. Go ahead. What do you think?
First off, I just want to say the Eastern Conference is so much worse than the Western Conference. It's not even funny. The talent disparity between the two conferences is insane. With that being said, let's list off the 8 teams that I personally think are going to make it. The one seed, I might be a little biased. I think Milwaukee has something to prove after getting out in the first round. I think Giannis is going to go. Giannis is on a revenge tour this season. And I think him, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton are going to carry the Bucks to the one seed. Number 2, I have Boston. I think the addition of Kristaps Porzingis might end up being the most influential offseason addition, ahead of Bradley Beal to the Suns. I think he's just a great fit with the team, offers rim protection and can stretch the floor. He's basically a better Robert Williams, is how I see him. And I think Boston's going to be number 2. Number 3, I have Philly. It obviously depends what happens to James Harden. Whatever they get back for him, or if he ends up playing or whatever. So Philly could be a team that moves around depending on what they do with their other star besides Embiid. But Embiid is coming off an MVP. He's a top 3 player in the league right now. And I think that's good enough to get Philly the 3 seed in a weakened conference. Number 4, I have Miami. They just came off a finals appearance. Miraculous one is a 8 seed Cinderella, but they lost a couple pieces, including Gabe Vincent and Strus, and it doesn't seem like they've made any ground on a Damian Lillard trade that seemed inevitable at one point. So, without Dame, with the core they have now, I still see them getting home court advantage, but I don't think they can beat out any of the first 3 I mentioned. Number 5, I have Cleveland, and I was even tempted to put them over Miami. I think another year of the big 3 of Mitchell, Garland, and Mobley, the chemistry they're going to have together is just going to be phenomenal. I think Mobley's going to take a step up in his offensive game, providing another low post scoring threat. Garland's a great playmaker. Mitchell's a great scorer, and they all complement each other's games very well. Number 6, I have Atlanta. I have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray are one of the more underrated backcourts in the league, I feel like. Trae's a walking 30-point, 10-assist guy. DeJounte is one of the top two-way guards in the league. They're not really going to make any noise in the playoffs, but they'll be good enough to sneak in and get past the play-in. Number 7, I had them winning the round 1 of the play-in game. This might come as a surprise. I have the Orlando Magic. I think the Magic have been rebuilding for years. They finally have accumulated enough young talent and are primed to make a postseason leap. They have an insane core. They have Banchero as the number 1 option. They have Franz Wagner, who's a great number 2. They have good guard. They have a ton of guards on their team. They just need one of them to step up. They have Fultz, Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. I mean, as long as one of those guards step up, they'll have a good backcourt. And they have Wendell Carter Jr., who I think is an underrated center, at least top 15 in the league. So I think the Magic are going to end their playoff drought and win the first game of the play-in tournament. And number 8, I have the New York Knicks. I think the Knicks are on a team for regression this year. I've been a believer in Barrett for his career, but not anymore. I think RJ Barrett's kind of hit a ceiling. Brunson is a star. He's the number 1 on the team. But I don't know how Randall's going to deal with that, because Randall's been the number 1 on the Knicks ever since he's arrived. So I don't know if he'll be able to learn to play off the ball. I think the Knicks are going to have some issues they're going to need to work out this season, and they'll barely sneak into the playoffs as the 8th seed.
All right. Very similar list to mine. We did jumble up some teams, especially at the top of the list. I think we jumbled a couple. Bottom of the list, I did not have Orlando in. I'll get to my ranking in a minute. I think their core is good, but they're unproven, and I don't know. They probably need 1 or 2 guards to step up and take a huge leap for them to make the playoffs, especially the 7th seed. That would be insane. But yeah.
Well, I think they need 1 or 2 guards to step up to win a series. I think they're going to have to make playoffs right now. Banchero is as long as he doesn't shoot 7% from the 3 again, he's a great offensive threat, and he could make the All-Star game this year.
Yeah, I mean Banchero's great, but I don't see Franz Wagner as a great number two guy. He's a role.
Great. Wow.
No, I don't. I think he's a number three to a really good role player at best. He reminds me of like what Aaron Gordon is to the Nuggets, and Aaron Gordon is definitely not the number two on Denver. So I don't know if he's a great number two. He's a good option. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player, but a great number two, that's a stretch, in my opinion. And those guards, like I said, are unproven. And some of the teams I
Mhm.
have over them just have more veteran, proven players. So, my list number one, I have the Boston Celtics. I think the addition of Porzingis separates them from the rest of the Eastern Conference right now, barring any Damian Lillard trade, James Harden trade, etc. But that addition of Porzingis, I really think Boston has the best roster on paper right now in the Eastern Conference, so I slotted them in at one. Number two, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. I think what you said was completely accurate. I just don't know if their big three can stay healthy for 82 games this year, especially with all the load management. I feel like Boston doesn't really load manage their players as much as Milwaukee will this year. So that's why I have them slotting in at two. Number three, I have the Miami Heat. I am expecting them to trade for Damian Lillard at some point in the regular season, and I think that will catapult them over Philadelphia with all the James Harden drama going on. And if they don't trade for Damian Lillard, who knows? They might trade for James Harden and take him off the
That'd
Sixers'
be
hands.
something.
So I think that's what's going to give Miami the edge over Philadelphia for the three seed is a trade come midseason. That's just my prediction. Number four, I have Philadelphia because they have the reigning MVP and they have one of the best home court advantages in the league, in my opinion. It's very hard to win in their building. Their fans are always showing up, being loud, so I have them at four. Now, this is where my list kind of got hard. Number five, I have Cleveland. I was contemplating putting them over Philly, but I didn't because I don't believe in their front court very much, other than Mobley's defensive capabilities. Jared Allen is mid. He's solid, but
He made an
he's
All Star
nobody's.
game.
Yeah, he's mid. I mean, he
You,
should.
you gotta be
Rudy
better than mid
Gobert
to
made
be
the
an
All Star
All-Star.
game. Rudy Gobert made the All Star game. Okay, so that right there is mid. Mid. Rudy Gobert is mid. He's not trash, but
Good
he's
point.
not good.
Fair enough.
So yes, I know he made an All Star game, but he's still mid. And Evan
Fair
Mobley needs to develop for the Cavs to get better. So I have them at five. Number six, I have the Knicks. I think you're severely sleeping on the Knicks. What I'm seeing out of RJ Barrett in the FIBA World Cup is very nice. He's dropping 30 points a night for Team Canada. I think that Julius Randle, being the second year of being the second option, I think he'll be more efficient. I think the coaching staff will force him to be more efficient because, in my opinion, the Knicks are better without him. And I think Jalen Brunson is amazing. So I have them at six. I think they're a little bit better than the teams you ranked above them. Number seven, I have Atlanta. For similar reasons you said, Trae Young is one of the most underrated stars in the league. He's a walking bucket, but then he also gets every single one of his teammates involved. He's the only reason the Hawks have a chance to make the playoffs. If they didn't have Trae Young, they would be terrible. DeJounte's good, but he's not a number one option on a playoff team. I think they'd miss the playoffs without Trae Young. So I have them in at seven. And then number eight, I have a team that you didn't even include, and that's the Brooklyn Nets. I expect Ben Simmons to be somewhat playable this year. And I think Mikal Bridges is better than Paolo Banchero, and that's why I have them over the Magic. So that's
I
my
do
eight.
agree with you that Bridges is better than Boncaro, but I just think Orlando has a stronger supporting cast and more team chemistry around the roster than the Patchwork Nets, who most of their starting lineup was traded for in the middle of last season. I don't know. I just feel like this Orlando team has the core has been together for years. They finally got the alpha they needed with Boncaro, and I'm just not a believer in the Patchwork Nets that this team has become.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also not a believer in. I believe the Magic's head coach is Steve Clifford. I think I could be wrong about that.
He's he's not a bad coach though. He's a good defensive coach. He preaches low turnovers,
I'm actually
and for a young
look that
team,
up.
that could be what the team needs. High intensity defensive coach who preaches taking care of the ball. because that's a lot of the younger team's issues, defensive
Okay, it's
turnovers.
it's not him. It's Jamal
Not
Mosley.
Clifford.
No,
I've never
it's
heard. Wow. All
Jamal
right.
Mosley. Have no idea who that is. He's
Yeah.
44 years old. Um,
Respectfully, I've never heard of him. Hopefully, he's good, or my prediction is going to look terrible.
yeah. Steve Clifford coaches the Hornets. Okay, no wonder they suck. That's why
Oh,
I
he's,
was.
he's back on the Hornets.
Yeah,
Okay.
interesting.
Wow.
Okay, all right. Well, um, sticking with the Eastern Conference before we move to the West, I want to go over our Eastern Conference Finals predictions and who we think is going to make it out of the East come finals time. So this is pretty cookie cutter for myself, but I have Boston, the number 1 seed, hosting Milwaukee, the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think that is so much to a surprise as to anyone listening. And I have Boston winning. I feel like, as I mentioned earlier, the addition of Porzingis is huge. They haven't been back to the finals since they lost it 2 seasons ago to Golden State. They should have made it last year, but they choked to Miami in the conference finals. They were better than Miami, and they had Game 7 on their home court, and they absolutely choked it away. So I expect them to not make the same mistakes this year that last year that they'll make this year. I think they'll be a lot better, and I expect and predict the Boston Celtics to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals this season.
Yeah, I agree with you in that, in the regard that it's a two-way. It looks like a two-team battle between Milwaukee and Boston. The next two teams in the Eastern Conference tier list both have question marks involving trades with their teams, and the next four or five don't have the experience and or the talent to compete with the top two. So yeah, it's going to come down to Boston, Milwaukee, and maybe there's a little bit of bias here. I have Milwaukee pulling it off. I think it's going to be a great competitive series. It'll go to 6 or 7 games, but I also have Milwaukee getting home court advantage. So I think that Game 7 in Milwaukee is going to be a huge difference. Um, losing the first round, that's a really humbling moment for the team, and they ended up firing their coach because of that. That's a chip on their shoulder. They're not the favorites in the Eastern Conference anymore because they lost in the first round as the 1 seed. That's a vengeance, and Giannis has one of the best work ethics and motivation in the NBA, and I feel like that's going to push him. That's going to be his motivation all year, and I just feel like having that top two or best player in the league on your team is going to make the difference rather than Boston. Whereas Tatum was a top 10 player, but I think every NBA team would rather have Giannis than Tatum.
Yeah. Maybe not the
You can.
Celt. No. Okay, yeah. Giannis is better than Tatum, but I don't know if every team would rather have Giannis than Tatum. I think
I will give it.
Giannis.
Tatum has a more versatile game.
Yeah.
I will give him that. You do have to build around Giannis, but if you can build around Giannis, that team's going to be a
Yeah.
lot better than whatever team Tatum's running on.
I'm not saying that Giannis is like not better than Tatum individually. I do think he's better on both ends of the court individually, but there's stuff that Jason Tatum does that would help you win games that Giannis just can't. I also think Giannis is easier to defend as a team. Like he's easier to game plan for than Jason Tatum. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's crazy to say every team would rather have Giannis because I do think what he does defensively is nothing compared to what Jason Tatum does defensively. So you can't forget about that. But yeah, that's an interesting conversation, and they've already met in the playoffs multiple times before. So hopefully we get to see that matchup again. And with that being said, we're going to move on to the other half of the NBA, which, like Alex said, is significantly more competitive than the Eastern Conference, and that is the Western Conference. So I'll start with my rankings this time. And this was very hard. I left out 3 very good teams that I would not be surprised if any of them made the playoffs at the end of the year. But these were the teams that I felt are the best, well-rounded teams, despite some other teams maybe having more stars, etc. So, number 1, I am really high on Phoenix this year. I think if the big three,
Wow.
I think if the big three stays healthy,
Wow.
they are going to win a lot of games in the regular season if Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal can stay healthy. I'm not worried about Devin Booker's health. He's still young and entering his prime. I don't think he's had that many injuries in his career. So I expect him to stay healthy, but Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant need to stay healthy. And if they do, they, in my opinion, have the most talent of any starting five in the NBA right now. So I have them at the number one. Number two, I have the defending champion Denver Nuggets, who I think will hit a little bit of a hangover the first, 20 games or so. I think Jokic and Jamal Murray and will take it seriously, but I don't know if the rest of the roster will really take it seriously coming off a championship. They lost Bruce Brown, which was one of their best players in the playoffs last year. He's now on Indiana, I'm pretty sure. And I think that their bench will be significantly weaker because of that. But I still think they're going to be great. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be one of the best teams in the league. Have them in at number two. Number three, I have my Golden State Warriors. I think we're very similar to Phoenix, where if we stay healthy and everything clicks, there's not a lot of teams better than us. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. Last year we had, off the court drama. Andrew Wiggins had personal issues. We didn't really have a center other than Kevon Looney for the entire season, which is similar this year. We need to sign somebody, and I think we will, hopefully. But I have the Warriors at three. Number four, the team that I think will make the biggest improvement from last year to this year is the Dallas Mavericks. I do not see Luka and Kyrie missing the playoffs altogether. They didn't even make the play-in last year. They were so bad. With a full season under their belts, I have them in the 4 seed, jumping 7 spots to where they finished last year at 11. Dallas is going to be very good this year. And when we get to the awards predictions, you'll see who I have for that too, which I think is a indictment of why I have them at 4. Number 5, I have the Sacramento Kings, who I think are going to take a little bit of a drop from last year. I don't think they're going to have all the clutch moments that De'Aaron Fox had last year. I don't think they're going to have the supporting cast excel as much as they did last year. And for that reason, I don't have them getting home court advantage. Have them in at the 5. Number 6 and 7, I have pretty interchangeably, and those are both of the LA teams. I slotted the Lakers in at 6 and the Clippers at 7 because I trust the Lakers to stay healthy more than the Clippers, which is kind of weird because both teams have had injury problems. And also one team has LeBron. So I'll slot them in at the 6, Clippers at the 7. I think if Kawhi and Paul George can stay healthy for similar reasons, they're better than any other team in the Western Conference below them. So that's why I'm giving them the nod over other younger teams. And number 8, a team that I think will struggle early on, but once they get their star back, they're going to make a late push for the playoffs, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. I have them in at number 8, barely sneaking into the playoffs. Those first 25 games are going to be a struggle without Ja Morant. I think they're going to get in a hole. But if Ja can play how I know Ja can play, and Memphis is significantly better with him, they'll make a push for the play-in, should take care of business in the play-in, and I have them in at number 8. So the 3 teams that I mentioned I left off were the Pelicans, the Timberwolves, and the Thunder. I think all 3 of those teams,
Pelicans?
I think other than Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum, they really don't have anybody else. To be
They
completely
were the
honest.
1 seed with those 3 players, though.
That
when
was
Zion was healthy.
Yeah, that was
they were the 1 seed.
that was last year, 2 years ago. This is a different season. I don't think they're going to be that good again.
Wow.
I don't see how they're that good again. So I have them missing the playoffs. They might make the play-in, and it's a 1-game thing. You might win and get in. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if any of these teams made the playoffs. I think the Thunder and the Timberwolves are going to be very competitive. But if all these other teams above them are clicking, they're just not as good as them. And I have to assume that everybody's going to be healthy because right now they're healthy. And when making predictions, you can't assume people are going to get hurt, in my opinion. So yeah, that's why I have my list. A lot of aging veteran teams I slotted in at 6 and 7 and 8, but the younger teams, I think The West is just so loaded. If you put those teams in the Eastern Conference, they're gonna make it in over Atlanta, Brooklyn, Orlando. But I don't think like if if like the last week of the season, if Memphis is playing the Pelicans to get the last spot, I'm taking the Memphis Grizzlies all day, every day. They're a better team than the Pelicans. I would take the Clippers to beat the Timberwolves in a one game off, assuming everybody's healthy. And the Thunder, I don't know how good they're going to be with Chet Holmgren now. They're going to look completely different with a big guy inside that can actually play basketball this season. So I think they're going to need another year or two to gel and become a fringe playoff team. So that's my list for the Western Conference.
All right, so our Western Conference is very different. Very, very different. Start off with mine. At number one, I got Denver. I think this is just currently the best team in the league. It has the best player in the league on their team. Jokic, he won back-to-back MVPs, then followed it up with winning a championship. Jamal Murray is one of the best two options, if not the best second option. He could very well make the All-Star game, even in the very loaded guards in the Western Conference. Porter Jr. He'll make every tough shot you give to him. He'll miss a wide open corner three, but then make some step back fadeaway contested three. So, when they need a bucket, they just give it to him and he'll make something happen. Aaron Gordon's always will be incredibly explosive and a great two-way forward. This is just a team with a great starting lineup, and I still feel like they have a lot of good pieces of depth on their bench. Even though they lost Bruce Brown, they still have Christian Brown. They still have Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan. They didn't play much in the playoffs, but I still feel like that's good depth. Number two, I actually have New Orleans as my number two seed. I think you are severely underestimating the impact Zion is going to have on this team. When Zion was on this team, they not only had the best, when he was healthy, they not only had the best record in the league, but the best point differential. They weren't just winning games, they were blowing out the teams they faced. Zion was getting to the rim at will, making the right reads, giving it out to Ingram and McCollum when they wanted the ball. Herb Jones can defend 1 through 5. Valanciunas will grab 20 rebounds a game. And this is just a team with not a lot of weaknesses. I mean, they have two great scorers in Ingram and McCollum. Zion can literally get to the rim whenever he wants, and the teams either have to foul him or let him go up for a dunk. Jones is the best defender. You can just put him on the other team's best player, and he'll do as good of a job as anyone would in the league. And Valanciunas is a great center. He's a very underrated center. He's a 2020 guy. I think he's better than Steven Adams. He's like the Gucci version of Steven Adams.
Wow.
I'm very high in New Orleans this year.
Wow.
And
wow.
I had them as a 2 seed. Number 3, I have Phoenix. I do expect Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal to miss a couple games here and there because of injuries. But Devin Booker showed a new evolution to his game in the playoffs where he was shooting with I'm not even exaggerating, the best efficiency I've ever seen in the NBA. He was having incredible playoffs, and they didn't run into the juggernaut Nuggets. They very well could have advanced farther. And now they have another scoring option besides KD. I feel like that's just going to help the offense out as a whole. It all depends on Ayton, on whether this team can make a run to the finals or not. But regardless, I think they're going to be a great regular season team, so I have them at 3. Number 4, I have the Clippers. I feel like Kawhi and Paul George are one of the best duos in the league. Kawhi still might be the best two-way player in the league when healthy. Keyword when healthy, because we haven't seen a lot of healthy Kawhi in the past couple seasons. If we do, I think he's going to reassert himself as a top 5 player in the league. And Paul George, it will reassert himself as probably the best second option in the league. Tyronn Lue's an experienced coach. He's won it all before. And he's a great leader for this Clippers team that needs to win this season. Needs to win. Number 5, I have Golden State. This is a team that historically, ever since their 73-win season, has not taken the regular season as serious as some of their teams. Not saying they just blow it off, but This is a team that, has a couple games out of the year that they'll just coast. They'll just go through the motions. They'll probably get blown up by 40 like we saw in the playoffs games, and then everyone will overreact saying the Warriors are done. But then Steph will go out and drop 40 points, and then Clay will go out and drop 6 threes, and Draymond will have a near triple-double but miss out on points. And just Golden State core things, And everyone's going to shut up and realize Golden State's okay and always will be a threat to win the West as long as they're healthy. Number 6, I have Dallas. I don't have them making as big of a jump as you, but like you said, I don't see how the star duo of Luka and Kyrie can miss the playoffs again. I also think the addition of Derek Lively in the draft was very underrated. They were missing just a traditional center last year, a guy who could defend the rim and run a pick and roll. They were having Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber do that last year, which obviously was a siege on defense and not the most efficient pick and roll on offense. I like Lively's going to help them a lot in that department. But it comes down to how well Luka and Kyrie can play together, whether they can learn to play off the ball when the other one is in control. But the front court's too talented for them, or the back court's too talented for them not to, make the playoffs. Number 7, I have Oklahoma City. I'm a huge believer in Shea. I think he's a top 5 guard in the league right now. He just came off averaging a 30-point season in his age, 22 year, which is absurd. I mean, that's insane for a 22-year-old to average 30 points in this league. In the core around him is insane. Jalen Williams is second Rookie of the Year voting. Chet Holmgren's a goddamn unicorn. Josh Giddey is a 6'8" playmaker. This is an amazing core. They have a very, very strong core. A lot of young talent on their bench, coming off their bench as well, in terms of Trey Mann, the other Jalen Williams. I feel like Oklahoma's ready to make the playoffs this year. And I think they're going to win in the play-in. At number 8, I have the Lakers. For a lot of the same reasons that I have the Warriors. I mean, this is a team with 39, 40-year-old LeBron and Anthony Davis, who has not proven that he can consistently stay healthy. So I think they're going to be games that they coast through. But the reason I have them lower is because there's so many games that both of these players are resting to prevent injuries. But I think James is still one of the best players in the league. Davis is still Anthony Davis, one of the best two-way players in the league. They don't have a lot of other talent around them, but I feel like those two should be able to at least carry the team to the playoffs. So the teams I have missing out, I have Memphis missing out, I have Sacramento missing out, and I have Minnesota missing out. Sacramento is the big one. People are going to not understand that. I think De'Aaron Fox made an absurd amount of clutch shots last year, and I don't think he's going to be able to replicate it this year. A lot of the games they won were because of, De'Aaron Fox game winners or De'Aaron Fox daggers. She made an absurd rate and ended up winning Clutch Player of the Year. If he doesn't do that, Sacramento loses at least an extra 6-7 games last year. And in a conference as loaded as the West, I feel like if De'Aaron Fox is absurdly clutch again, those 6-7 games will come and bite them in the ass, and they will lose in the play-in game. That's what I predict. Memphis, I'm just not a believer in the team chemistry this year. I feel like that's going to be a massive issue both on and off the court with the issues John Morant has had. With they have to have Bane as the number one option. Jaren Jackson Jr., I feel like he's starting to get a little overrated. Great player, great defensive player, but I don't know if he's an all-star caliber player in terms of his offensive game. I'm just not a believer in this Memphis team. Even with Ja coming back at 25 games, I think they're going to be better without him because their chemistry is going to be better. When he comes back, that's a whole new style of basketball they're going to have to learn on the fly, and I'm just not confident in that team. And with Minnesota, I mean, Anthony Edwards is him. He's arguably, he might even be the face of the league in a couple of years. He's just that good, that marketable. But I'm not a believer in the Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert front court. I don't think they really help each other out. They make each other worse. And making Cat having to guard, power forwards like Giannis and Tatum, for example, is just a massive mismatch on the defensive end. And I think Minnesota is going to realize this core isn't going to work after this season.
Okay. Before we get into the Western Conference Finals predictions, I want to rant for a little bit. Your New Orleans Pelicans take was out there, but at least you justified the take. Let me finish. At least you justified the take, okay? I can live with that. But there is no way that you put the Oklahoma City Thunder above the Sacramento Kings. There's no way.
I did.
They're the same team, but
Okay.
one is better at every
Hold on.
position other
Hold
than
on.
Shea.
Hold
Other than
on.
Shea, the Kings are better
on.
at every single
Yeah.
position.
So
There is no
you'd have
way.
Shea over De'Aaron Fox, correct? You'd have Shea over
Yes,
De'Aaron
but
Fox?
it's not as far as you would think. De'Aaron Fox is
Would
very
you
good.
would you rather have Chet Holmgren or Sabonis?
Sabonis, easy.
I disagree.
Chet hasn't played. He hasn't played a game yet. We haven't seen him play.
But he's already better on defense than Sabonis will ever be in his life.
I don't
He already has a better
care.
3-point shot than Sabonis will ever have in his life.
You can
Holmgren,
work
I
on
feel like,
those
is
things.
already a better player than Sabonis.
No, stop that, bro. Stop that.
Jalen Williams or Keegan Murray?
Keegan Murray. He's a significantly
I'll take
better
Keegan,
shooter.
but it is closer than you thought. It is closer than you think. I will take Keegan, but it is closer.
Who's the best player on the bench for the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Other Jalen Williams,
Because I'd rather have Malik Monk than any one of those players off the bench. I'd rather
Aaron
have Malik
Wiggins.
Monk over any other player.
Who's Sacramento's starting shooting guard?
Kevin Herter. He's
Yeah,
similar to the first Jalen Williams on the Thunder, the starting Jalen Williams. He's about the same as Kevin Herter. Harrison Barnes is about as good as Josh Giddey. He played amazing last year. They just do completely different
What?
things. They do completely different things.
First of all, I'd rather have Josh Giddey over both Harrison Barnes and Kevin Herter.
I would too. But their role on the team is about the same. Their role on the team is about the same.
Their entire front court, or their entire backcourt, is better than Sacramento's backcourt, which is the strength of that team. And yet you're saying Oklahoma cannot be better than Sacramento?
No, I'm saying they're not better than Sacramento. That's what I'm saying.
What's the difference then? What's the difference?
One
What's the difference between
team
Sacramento and Oklahoma
was the
City?
third seed in the West last year. They were the best offense in the league with Harrison Barnes and Kevin Herter, those scrubs that you just called them in the starting lineup.
The Aaron Fox was playing clutch out of his mind. If you replicate that this year, yes, Sacramento will be an insane team again.
They don't just
I
measure
don't think
the
De'Aaron
best.
Fox-
They don't measure the best offense based off the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. It's all game, every game. They were the best offense in the league. They took the Warriors to 7 games. The Thunder would have won 1 game in a 7-game series against the Warriors. They took them 7.
Disagree.
They took them
Disagree.
7.
Disagree. Maybe last year's iteration of the Thunder, but Chet is going to make such a big difference this year. The Thunder's one weakness was rim protection. They couldn't defend at the rim. They had no. They were a siege in the paint. Now with Chet, that issue is fixed. It's gone. It doesn't exist. It's a thing of the past. Chet is going to make such a revolutionary difference on this team. And I think after the All-Star game, we're going to see Chet perform like an All-Star level player once he gets acclimated to the speed and physicality of the NBA.
Okay. Because we're doing this debate, I'll ask you this question now. If Chet is so good, do you think he's going to be better than Wembanyama and win Rookie of the Year? If Chet is going to make such a revolutionary difference, do you think he's going to be better than Wembanyama and win Rookie of the Year?
I would not be surprised if it happened, but my pick is Wembanyama. I feel like Chet is Wembanyama light. If you are taking a generational prospect, a once-in-a-lifetime prospect of Wembanyama, and comparing him to Chet Holmgren, that shows how good Chet can be. That shows how good Chet can be. Just wait to see what Chet's going to do. Just wait. I'm a huge believer in Chet.
You just meat road Chet, calling him probably the best. You just made him out to be probably the best player on the Oklahoma City Thunder for the last 5 minutes. And
Wait,
now,
what?
And now you're saying he's not even better than Wembanyama? That makes no sense.
No. First of all, Shea's the best player, far and away. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's the best player.
Yes,
I
obviously.
said Chet will be the reason that they get far. Shea was putting up 30 points a game last year, and they didn't make the play-in, or they did and lost in the play-in because of rim protection. You know who offers good rim protection? First of all, Wembanyama does, but also Chet. Chet is literally like the Dollar Tree version of Wembanyama, which is not bad by any stretch of imagination. That is a very, very good comparison. What is there to be shocked about this?
If the Thunder go far, it's because of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It is not because of Chet Holmgren. Okay, stop that. Stop that blasphemy
it's
right
because
now.
of both of those players. Their weakness. Chet solves their weakness. It's like what we said Derek Lively is going to do for the Dallas Mavericks. He's going to offer rim protection. And that was the reason that Dallas didn't even make the play-in.
The Kings are not going to fall off a cliff because of Chet Holmgren's defensive capabilities
They're going to fall
at the
off a
rim.
cliff because De'Aaron Fox isn't going to make every single clutch shot this year.
No, he's not, but he's still going to make some. Bro, there.
Yeah, some, but it's going to still add up to 5-6 more losses. And this conference is loaded. It's stacked.
I know it's loaded, but they're still better than the Thunder. I'm not saying they're going to be the 1 seed. They're better than the Thunder.
I think Oklahoma City is going to shock a lot of people this year.
Hell, you left Memphis off. Memphis is better than Oklahoma City.
Yes, but the chemistry issues are not going to work out.
Chemistry issues? The Thunder have... Their new starting center hasn't played a game. What do you mean chemistry? They haven't played yet. What do you mean
for
chemistry?
A full year with their team. A full calendar year of practice with their team.
They haven't played an NBA game against NBA players together yet. And you're talking about chemistry issues for other teams.
I can't wait to watch Oklahoma City make the playoffs and just laugh in your face. I cannot wait for that. I'm so excited for this.
Okay. That's fine. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the playoffs, but saying they're better than these teams is absolutely disrespectful. That's just disrespectful. Okay? If they beat them in a 1-game play-in, I would not be surprised. Because, yes, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is that guy, okay? But they are not a better team, and they will not have a better regular season record than these teams. That is absolutely atrocious. If
you put Oklahoma City in a 7-game series against both Sacramento and Memphis, I'll pick Oklahoma to win. Straight up, I pick them to win.
Okay.
It'd be close. It'd go to 6 or 7 games.
Okay.
But I think Oklahoma would win.
Okay. I'm just going to get my Western Conference Finals prediction out. Phoenix and Denver, I think, are the 2 best teams, so I have them making the conference finals, and I have Phoenix going to the finals. It's very hard to repeat in the NBA, win back-to-back titles. It's very difficult, and I think Phoenix, being knocked out by Denver last year, they made it close with a significantly worse roster. And I also have them having home court, being the 1 seed. So give me Phoenix and 7 over Denver in the Western Conference Finals.
All right, I have Denver and the Clippers making it to the Western Conference Finals. I think the duo of Kawhi and Paul George is, along with the depth they have, will end up outlasting or it would be Denver outlasting Phoenix since I have them as the 4 seed. I think Denver's a better team than Phoenix. They showed it last year. We'll show it again this year.
You said the Clippers?
Denver will beat them in the conference.
You said Denver and the Clippers? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Denver and the Clippers in my finals because Phoenix will get eliminated in the second round by Denver.
What about your Pelicans? What about your Pelicans that are so good? Where are they? Just going to get bounced in the first round by the Thunder?
No, they're going to get bounced in the second round by the Clippers. Although that series will be very good. I cannot wait to see that Pelicans Thunder series. That's going to be amazing. But no, the Clippers are going to be a worse regular season team because of any load management that they go through.
Okay.
But I feel like in playoffs, I feel like Kawhi Leonard is one of the more experienced playoff vets you can have. He's single-handedly carried a team to a championship before. And Paul George has had his fair share of playoff runs, while his Pelicans team has yet to make a deep run. It's like Memphis of last year. They were the 2 seed. They didn't have the playoff experience to really compete. That, I feel like, is going to be the weakness of New Orleans. Great regular season team. Maybe ready to compete for a championship next year. But I feel like this year is just more of a get used to the playoff environment kind of story. And that's why I have LA beating them in the semifinals. Denver, I feel like, is a better team than Phoenix. I feel like that'll be a very, very close series, like you said. But I think Phoenix's lack of defense and depth will end up costing them in the playoffs in comparison to what Denver has. So I think it's going to be Denver and LA. Now, this is a very good series. I see this as a coin flip. Both teams are very experienced in the playoffs. Both have star power. Both have depth. Both have great coaching. I got to give it to Denver again. I think Nick Jokic is just on a rampage right now. He's asserting himself as the best player in the league, asserting himself as one of the best big men of all time, and it could very well go either way. I can make a good argument for both teams, but my gut tells me it's going to be Denver again, and that gives me a finals of Milwaukee and Denver.
Yeah. Okay. The one thing I will say about Denver is I don't know how much better they can get than what they looked like last season. They might be able to replicate what they did last season, but I don't know if they're going to get better than last year. And I think a lot of these other teams in the West got better. Phoenix in particular. I also think that Golden State got better. I think Dallas got better. I think the Clippers, with their health, got better. And again, as I already mentioned, it's hard to repeat. So I think if Denver is to make it back to the finals, they're going to have to be better than they were last year. And I don't see how they're going to be better. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. But you look at what they did in the playoffs. They went through the Timberwolves in 5, went through the Phoenix in 6, swept the Lakers, and then beat the Heat in 5. They only lost 4 games that entire playoffs. That is a very, very dominant playoff run that the Nuggets just had. It wasn't really they didn't really have much competition throughout the playoffs. They were just that much better than everyone. So yeah, while I agree with that the West does get better, I don't know if any team in the West has improved to the level of Denver, aside from maybe Phoenix and the Clippers. They might have enough star power to compete with Denver, but I mean, with the level Denver played at this last playoffs, they looked incredible. They looked unbeatable. And I don't really see any team being able to beat them 4 times out of 7 games.
Yeah, it's very hard to look unbeatable 2 years in a row. And that's why I have Phoenix making the finals. And I actually have the Suns winning the NBA championship this year, beating the Boston
over the
Celtics. Yeah, I have the Suns beating the Celtics. I think the big 3 of Phoenix, in my opinion, is better at every spot. Devin Booker, I think, is better than Jason Tatum. Kevin Durant is definitely better than Jaylen Brown.
Hot take, but I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that.
And Bradley Beal is better than Kristaps Porzingis, in my opinion. So, and then you tack on DeAndre Ayton, who's probably better than the 4th best player on the Celtics. So, who is that? Like Malcolm Brogdon, probably. But, I mean.
Yeah, Robert Williams, someone like that.
Yeah.
Do you think so you don't think the Suns' lack of defensive talent or depth will end up hurting them? At all? Because you also had them ranked pretty highly in the regular season.
I have them finishing 1 in the West. That's just because I know when Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant played together, they were unstoppable. And in my opinion, Kevin Durant's a good defender. James Harden and Kyrie suck at defense. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Devin Booker is...
Bradley Beal is one of the worst defenders.
Okay, Bradley Beal...
Devin Booker is an underrated defender.
Devin Booker is not
Beal
a
sucks.
scrub.
Beal's a terrible defender.
Beal's trash. Yeah, I agree with that.
Booker is not a scrub on the defensive end. If he wants to, he can put in effort and be an above-average defender.
Devin Booker is a significantly better defender than Kyrie Irving and James Harden. Significantly better.
I will give you that. I agree with that.
And I think he will take the challenge defensively, knowing that his team is not as defensively capable. Because Devin Booker knows what it takes to make the finals, and he knows what it takes to win. He wants to win. And I think he's going to take that jump to the number 1 option, even though I think Kevin Durant is better than him. I don't think... This is not Kevin Durant's team. This is not his team.
Yeah, and he knows that. Like Kevin Durant did with Golden State, he was willing to give up possessions to Steph, Clay, make sure they get all their shots
and
up.
I think
KD's going to do the same thing here. He'll get a bucket if they need, but he knows this is Booker's team. This is the team that drafted him, and he's ready to take over.
Yeah, in my opinion, I would take Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant over Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden. And I saw how good they were in Brooklyn when they were healthy. So that is what I'm basing it off of. Yes, they will have defensive lapses, but they're going to put up 120 points a night because nobody can guard them. Like, nobody can guard them on the other end of the court.
I can agree with that. That's a good take.
And if they join together and play as a team, they are going to be damn near unstoppable, in my opinion. they're just too good at every position. I think the one thing that will hurt them is depth. I would love to see them make some trades mid-season for some bench guys that could give them 10 to 15 minutes a night and, 8 to 10 points or something. Just something. Because Kevin Durant and Devin Booker cannot play 48 minutes a night in the playoffs. They cannot. They're not going to be successful. They need to trust other players other than their starting five. That was their biggest issue last year, and that still will be their biggest issue this year. I'm not so worried about their defense because they'll make up for it on the offensive end. I'm more worried about their depth, and I think that's something that Monty Williams is a great coach. He should address that by the trade deadline. Yeah. I think Phoenix is the future champs this year.
In terms of my finals, I have Milwaukee and Denver. Again, my bias is going to come out. I think Milwaukee's revenge tour ends with a second ring for Giannis. He's arguably been the face of the NBA for the last 5-6 years. Him winning back-to-back MVPs, winning a ring, winning Defensive Player of the Year as well as MVP in the same year. That was just one of the most dominant player stretches we've ever seen. And I think he's going to go back to that. He's 28 now. He's just now entering his athletic peak, his athletic prime. And they still have the same core of Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez from when they won the championship. So I think as long as this core retains together, there'll always be a threat. And in a weakened Eastern Conference, I feel like their only competition in that division that conference is Boston. If they can get past Boston, make it to the finals, anything can happen. And if you told me to pick between Giannis and Jokic, I'll pick Giannis. Maybe I'm biased, but I would pick Giannis. Okay. There might be some bias there. I'm not going to deny that. I could very well see the case for Jokic.
Well, you just called Jokic the best player in the league like 3 times, but that's fine.
Yeah, I did. I did. Let me be biased for a second towards my team.
As long as you know you're being biased, that's all that matters. As long as you know you're being biased.
I know I'm 100% being biased. I just if I'm just imagining how the playoffs go, I just imagine Milwaukee winning. So I'm going to have them winning.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Obviously, you could very well make a case for the Denver Nuggets. I could very well agree with that. But the big three of Giannis, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday versus the big three of Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., that's very, very close. But I feel like we're a stronger defensive team in terms of that big three. We didn't even include Brook Lopez in that big three. He might be one of the best defensive centers in the league now. I feel like our defense is a lot stronger than their defense. As long as we don't go have our stagnant period as an offense that cost us against the Heat in this last playoff run, I feel like we can compete with anyone in the league. I feel like Milwaukee can win it all.
I agree with that. They're one of the best teams in the league, and they stay healthy. They are
both sides of the court.
Honestly, looking at the teams I have, I think they're the best defensive team in the NBA. I probably believe that. They probably have the best defense in the league.
Giannis just won DPOY. Brook Lopez was, I think, the runner-up or third place or something like that. He's had a career rejuvenation as a defensive center. And Drew Holiday's one of the best two-way guards in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't think
Costa
they're one of the few teams
against the Heat. It was a stagnant offense that cost it against the Heat. There were stretches of games that we just could not score and allowed a Heat team that was down by 10 or 15 points to get right back in it. And then with our free throw issues that Giannis and our team had down the stretch, that's what ended up costing us a series. I think we were a better team than Miami. Just Jimmy Butler decided to turn into Michael Jordan for that series, even though he sucked the rest of the playoffs. Pissed me off. And our just lack of creativity on offense, which I think is what ended up costing Mike Budenholzer his job.
Yeah, they're one of the few teams this year that I could see winning the NBA Finals, so I don't hate that take at all. And like I said, defense wins championships. So they have a very good case to win the championship. Because of time, I think we're going to save the crossover grid for next episode, because I'm pretty sure we ran this episode up to close to an hour, if I'm correct about that.
Wow.
If there's nothing else you'd like to add, I think we're just going to sign it off here, and we will see you on Sunday for NBA awards predictions and hopefully a crossover grid if we don't get into debates like we did today.
Yeah, you slandering the Oklahoma City Thunder took up way too much time.
Yeah, okay. You put me in that position. You put me in that position.
All right, this is the Hoopers Lounge signing off, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.
Peace.
Peace.